for this party to start here. So I need everyone to find your seats, get yourself settled. Thank you for that really meager round of applause to start. It's pretty great. Yeah, this is an athletics event, so here we go. Hey, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. Good, that was pathetic. So here's your simple response. Is good afternoon, Mr. Whittakis. Let's try it again. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. That's beautiful. All right, you got two things to do right now. You're at your table and people around your table. I need you to find as many people as you can and simply say, good afternoon, same thing. And number two, you look good today. Make it happen right now. Make it happen right now. Thank you. You look good today. Hey, let's try this again. Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, guys, we just want to welcome you, and I really need you guys to hear this, to the 20th annual Douglas County School District Girls and Women in Sports Celebration. Can we give a little round of applause for that? Hey, guys, my name is Brad Whittakis. I'm the Assistant Director of District Athletics and Activities. I get the privilege to be the co-chair of what we consider to be the very best event that we get to pull off here in Douglas County. And I just need to say out loud, again, you guys really do look good, and welcome to the show. Guys, in 1986 is when U.S. Congress passed the first ever National Women's Day in Sport. To celebrate that, 20 years later, we started our very first one here in Douglas County, and we are excited for the 20th anniversary celebration of it today. What you're noticing today is we rebranded, and so for the first time ever, you're seeing our new logo. Can we just get a little ooh, ah, thank you. That was a lot of hours. That was not validated. We did a lot of great job with rebranding. Today, we have some first ever video selections of every theater area that we've ever done. And then we also have some special guests today, guys, that I really hope you're excited about. So with that said, I need to start with this. We got to start with some thank yous. Is that cool with everybody? We're going to start with some thank yous. All right, so here's what I need. Today, if you are a part of the Girls and Women's Sport Committee, I need you to stand up right now. So wherever they are, would you stand up? We got Jan, we got Karen, we got TR, we got Ashley over here, we got Allison over here. Can we give these guys a massive round of applause to start today? All right, hey, listen, I'm just the show pony. I get a chance to be up here sharing all this good stuff, but it's the committee's work that really has allowed us to be in this place at this time celebrating these amazing ladies. All right, the next thing, speaking about this place, can I just see a quick raise of hands? This is your first time to our Legacy campus? Can I see a raise of hands? All right, hands down. First of all, we want to welcome you. Second of all, who's been here before? Good, that should have been the rest of you. I love some of you wording. What's the third option? Can we all agree this place is absolutely beautiful? And can we give a round of applause to our Legacy staff for setting this up today? All right, I need, and by the way, just get used to this. Get your hands warmed up, because here we go, all right? Number 3 of these thanks is I really need to give a massive shout out to our communications department and their support of all the things we do around this, but also to the man himself, Mr. Tommy Pellenuk. We're actually live streaming this event for all families that couldn't be here, but still wanted to be a part of the celebration. Can we give a round of applause for Tommy and our comms department, please? First of all, you guys sound really good. Great job. All right. The next one is, I do not need an applause yet, because I'm going to have several groups of people stand up. All right, number 1, if you are a part of Douglas County School Board, quietly, no applause, I need you to stand. If you are any part of our school leadership, this is EDOS and any admin assistants, I need you to stand. If you are a part of our cabinet or any of our central ad departments, I need you to stand. Our board of directors for our nonprofit arm of the foundation, if you are part of that board, I need you to be standing. And then, this is not athletic directors, but any building principals or anyone on your admin team, I need all of those people to stand up. Please be standing quickly. Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, makes the world go round are these people and these leaders that are standing right now. Can we give them a round of applause, please, to say thank you? Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Aaron. Nice wave. Hey, and then we have another really special group. Listen, CHASA, Colorado High School Activities Association, they're a state governing body, right? They are there as a service-minded entity that continues to serve what we try to do here in Douglas County School District. And I know we have some CHASA reps today, so I'm asking our CHASA reps today to please stand up and be recognized with a round of applause, please, for these guys. So thank you very much. Hey! Thanks again, guys. All right, the next one, this is a big group here, all right? And listen, I know that some of this I'm about to announce are coaches and our teachers. And you're such a humble crew that you're like, I'm not standing up. You are standing. Right now, if you are a coach or a teacher that's here to support our 90 winners today, I need our coaches and our teachers to stand, please, right now. Yes, Paul. Look around the room. Give it up for these guys. Oh, Coach White, you look good. Yeah, and good luck tonight at the game, by the way. Hey, the next one, what we're really kind of shrinking the circle here right now is we just need to take a moment and pause because we're about to talk about our athletic directors and their admin assistants. Because I really need you to know that at the end of the day, these are all the people that are doing all that behind-the-scenes stuff for your specific school. And in a lot of ways, those recognitions sometimes just don't come very fast. Oftentimes, we get sometimes the opposite feedback. And so we're going to change that feedback today for our athletic directors and our admin assistants that have committed themselves to the brilliance of athletics here in Douglas County. ADs, admin assistants, get up because we're about to celebrate you. Mr. Everett. Thank you for that. All right, the next one is our one-off on today that I need to just take a moment to really say thanks, is that we have, in our 20-year anniversary, a single photographer for over the last year has been to every single event for our female athlete sports. She has captured video, she has captured still photos, and today she's here to capture your girls as they are winners. Today in this back corner over here, that we're going to have a little spot for them to be able to get some professional photos done. And I just need to right now out loud thank, her name is Kim Maloney. Kim, where are you at right now? All right, so we got Kim over here. Ladies and gentlemen, I really mean this. You think of the thousands of hours that we've tried to personalize this celebration by bringing in an amazing human being, an amazing photographer, and I just need us right now to say thank you. Could we give her a round of applause, please, right now? All right, and then we got to talk about our department. Listen, if you heard me say earlier, I am the co-chair of this event. So I need to take a moment to celebrate the better half of the co-chairing opportunity here. Allison Porter is our admin assistant for our district athletics office. She's not only a great colleague, but she is a great friend, and she is a great influence herself as a coach of female sports here in Douglas County. And she's standing over on this wall over here. And last year, guys, she was not able to be here because she was sick. She was live streaming, and so we're waving at her, and it felt really fun, but now we get the live version of her. Can we give Allison a massive round of applause, please? I really like her. All right, I need to talk about this next individual, and he's going to start walking up here. So, Mr. Cheney, would you start walking towards the front here? Ladies and gentlemen, listen, 20 years we've been doing this. And this guy has been our district athletic director for 16 of those years. He took over. He had inherited a tradition of celebrating our young ladies. And, oh, keep coming, my friend. I don't know what you're doing over there. And I really need you to hear this from my heart. For the last 3 years, it's really been Allison, Derek, and I, and getting a chance to run this district vibe and feel. And so being able to have Derek up here today in celebration of his final Girls and Women in Sport is I asked him just to share a few words. Now listen, Derek goes by a lot of names for us. We have some that are fun. And I just want to let everybody know, right? We obviously call him our director, but we also call him things like Master Shifu from Kung Fu Panda. We also have our favorite is Rafiki from The Lion King, and he several times held me up. It was kind of exciting. But I need you guys to hear that for the vast majority of us that have felt Derek's influence on our life, we call him our mentor, we call him our friend, and we call him the ambassador of athletics in our district. Ladies and gentlemen, could you give Derek a huge round of applause today for his service over the last.
Thank you very much. I don't know if I deserve all those accolades, but thank you, Brad. Hey, welcome to the greatest event I think we put on of the entire year. We love this event. We're very proud of what we do for our girls and women's sports here. So welcome to our event. I think Brad took care of a lot of the thank yous. And I'd be remiss if we didn't also thank Brad. Brad is really organized with this event. He is down, he gets in the trenches down to a T. He dots the I's, crosses the T's. He does everything to help plan this event along with Allison. So if we give Brad a round of applause too, thank you. "30 minutes, right? 30, okay, just kidding. 3 to 5, he gave me 3 to 5. So. Hey, just a couple things that I want to say. You student athletes in the room right now, you should be very proud of what you have accomplished. We are a very competitive district in Douglas County Schools, right? It's a competitive school district. We strive to be the best in everything we do, academics, athletics, activities across the board. I'll spare you all the math and all the numbers, but in this room today that we're going to recognize, you female athletes are in the top 2% of the female athletes in Douglas County School District. Top 2%. We have 45 middle school girls today and 45 high schools, and it's unbelievable what you guys have accomplished. Parents, you should be extremely proud. I was thinking as Brad was thanking everybody that it takes all of us for the success of what we have here. It takes all the people that Brad mentioned that stood up in there. It takes, obviously, you guys as parents, all the time and commitment you guys give as parents. I think of all the club sports, all the youth sports, all the money, all the time, all the effort, everything that you guys put in as parents to go along with what we do at the school level. It takes all of us, right? We wouldn't be here. There's not one person in this room who didn't have an impact on what the success for these student athletes. So please, one more round of applause for our parents as well. A couple things, I guess just a message I would have for the girls is something I've always kind of hung my hat on as the district AD, and if you ever read the student parent handbook, it's actually in there as a letter from me. And I always said this coaching, but I would say this is really for our student athletes in the room. As you guys pursue your career, oh my gosh, we're about to hear all these accolades for these student athletes, just unbelievable. The high school girls and what they've accomplished in their tenure in high school is just unbelievable. It really is. Wait till you hear all the accolades. Some are going to go on to college and play. Some still have spring sports coming up. You middle school girls in the room, you've already accomplished a lot in your time, and you're really just getting started, right? You have 4 years ahead of you at the high school level to compete and to participate. And I guess a few words that I would say that I think are important in athletics is number one, you should have fun. Athletics should be fun, right? And some people, sometimes they misinterpret fun as recreational. And those are two different things, right? Being competitive is fun, right? Accomplishing something is fun, right? Working hard to get there is fun. Sometimes you just need to back up as you're working hard, as you're running those extra sprints, doing those extra miles in the weight room, doing whatever. Just back up and have fun. Enjoy it. Have fun. It goes quick. Trust me, it goes quick. I can't believe I'm retiring. 32 years in education. I just where'd the time go? So it goes really quick. So take time. Make sure you're having fun. That's very important out there. That's the number one thing I would say. Number two, I would say be a good teammate. Okay? I think it's really, really important to be a good teammate. The relationships you build with your teammates on and off the court are extremely important. And I'm going to embarrass someone in the audience today that I've known this guy for about 40 years. And we became teammates about 40 years ago on a high school basketball team. And guess what? To this day, now we're here celebrating his daughter at a girls and women's sports event. And we still get together. And it's that relationships you have with your teammates, both on and off the court. Dan, you know I was going to embarrass you. Will you please stand as my teammate from 40 years ago? Give Dan a round of applause. And I would say the last thing, and I'm going to pull up my phone because I want to make sure I don't mess up this definition. I'd always tell my student athletes, and I would tell you guys, to play with passion. Have fun, be a good teammate, and play with passion. And sometimes I'd get the question, well, Coach or Derek, what do you mean by passion? Could you define passion? Right? And so I'm actually going to read what I think passion is. There's, right, just AI or Google something, you can find what you want for passion. But this is a genuine passion is a deep, authentic, and heartfelt enthusiasm or compelling desire for something, going beyond a mere interest to involve sincere dedication, a willingness to endure challenges, and a drive to pursue goals related to that interest. And the fact that you have a willingness to endure challenges, you know, those of you going on to play at the next level in college, those of you middle school going to play high school, you're going to endure some challenges, and that is the beauty of athletics. It's certainly the beauty of it. It's not always about the success part. You'll learn just as much, if not more, in the parts where you're enduring those challenges. And you should welcome those, right? You should welcome those challenges and play with passion. So again, my 3 things: have fun, be a good teammate, play with passion, and let's get on to the real reason we're here, to start celebrating these student athletes. Thank you.
I love those moments going upstairs where just for that fleeting second, you know you're going to trip. That's always great. Listen, I need everyone to hear we have one last group that we're going to recognize. And I just need you to think who you think I'm talking about. Think about this. This group, overall, cumulative GPA, 3.95. We think about that in this group, we have district middle school champions, first team all-conference, first team all-state, second team all-state, Continental League Player of the Year, MVPs in various sports, a Gatorade Player of the Year, a Sports Illustrated National Athlete of the Week, an Army All-American, an ESPN SportsCenter Top 10 moment. Think about this. Out of this group, who I'm sure you have no idea who I'm talking about, we have AP scholars in that group. We have academic all-state first team. We have National Junior Honor Society and National Honor Society. We have DECA state qualifiers, academic letters for multiple years, student government leaders, unified program partners, best buddies program leaders, sports scholar award winners. In this group, we have people that are going to be going on to playing NCAA Division I, II, and III sports in softball, basketball, volleyball, lacrosse, soccer, flag football, golf, track and field, and dance. Maybe some of you are getting an idea of this group I'm talking about, because all of a sudden we have to start thinking about our career pathways, that some of the people in this group are going on to our health sciences pathway. They're heading on into biology, biochemistry, health science, kinesiology, physical therapy, veterinary medicine, and pre-med. Some in this group are going on to the world of business and leadership in a pathway. Business administration, finance, marketing, accounting, political science, international studies, and law. We have some going into STEM, engineering, and technical pathways. And then we have this educational and youth development pathway, child development. They want to be teachers. But my favorite thing is some of these things that this group gets called. They're called role models. They're called inspiring. They're called encouragers and uplifters of the human soul. They're leaders. They're resilient. They're compassionate. They're coachable. They're eager to learn. And they love people. Guys, what we are about here today is these 90, to celebrate the goodness and the fullness of who they are as human beings. This will be our one chance as a crowd to give all 90 our love and our admiration, to say that you are more than just an athlete. You are more than just a student. You are the fullness of what it means to be a good human being. Ladies, I hope that you sort of picked up on this, that we're talking about you. So could I have all of our lady winners please stand up right now? And ladies and gentlemen, can we give a big round of applause to our 90? All right, let's get this show on the road. We're really excited to introduce one of my favorite people ever. Today, guys, we have the privilege of having Miss Romy Bean be one of our presenters and readers today and a chance to share some words. Listen, today, Romy Bean started her career at CBS News Colorado by covering the Denver Broncos. You might have heard of them. On CBS Colorado mornings on a part-time basis. She used the experience to learn as much as she could about anchoring sportcasts, telling compelling stories, and connecting with the Colorado community. After 2 years of working mornings part-time, Romy landed a full-time position as the weekend sports anchor in 2018. By 2022, Romy was named the Colorado Sportscaster of the Year by the National Sports Media Association. And in January of 23, she was named CBS Colorado's lead sports anchor. She is the first woman to be named a sports anchor in Denver TV history. With that said, Romy says, "This is my responsibility I do not take lightly. So many incredible women have come before me and paved the way for me to break a new barrier. It is an honor and a privilege to continue what they started, and I hope this shows young women and girls that sports are for everyone." Guys, what I need you to know today is Romy Bean is here, ladies, to represent the very best of what it means to be doing things even outside of just sports, but still having an influence of sports on this world. Now, Romy's going to be up here today, and she's going to be sharing some things. And Rome, if you don't mind, I want to talk a little bit about the process of what it's going to look like after you speak, so there's no like, what? Girls, listen. After Romy gets a chance to come up today, we're going to be calling specific schools one at a time. Legend and Cimarron, just so you know, you're the first. What you're going to be doing is you're actually going to be moving to the on-deck area, which is going to be next to this wall by Mrs. Porter. You're going to be standing there at attention. All right, I'm joking. You're going to be standing there with joy in your heart. We're going to be showing a little clip of you as a feeder area. Once that feeder area is done, you're going to be making your way onto stage. You're going to be standing all the way across 10 of you. When your name is announced, you will step forward, and we get to share some brilliant things about you. When we're done reading, you step back. At the end of all 10, we're going to send you off stage because your athletic directors and myself are going to be meeting you over there. We're going to give you a certificate, maybe a handshake and a hug to say congratulations. You'll move all the way to the back corner to see Kim. We're going to get a professional photo of you and a chance to encapsulate the day. But we think about all of that, and we think about this moment right now of this amazing woman who's coming on stage to be able to share the brilliance of her life as a woman and as an independent warrior for what it means to be the authentic self. Ladies and gentlemen, would you put your hands together for Miss Romy Bean?
Hi, everybody. I'm so honored and thrilled to be here today. This event has become, I mark it on my calendar at the end of today, next year's event, because I walk away so inspired by the incredible young women in this room that we're going to be honoring today. All you have accomplished, it's only the beginning, and you are truly the best of us. But I think when we're going to honor each of you today, I want you to also honor the team that got you here. Your family, your friends, your teammates, your coaches. Because what I've learned in my job is success, it's so much better when it's shared together. And you remember everyone who got you there, because there was a lot of times in my career I got into this path in a little bit of a non-traditional fashion. I didn't go to journalism school. I came into it a little bit late, so I was fighting time. I was fighting being a woman in a male-dominated industry. I was also a Broncos cheerleader as I jumped into this job, so I was fighting that stereotype as well. I was fighting all sorts of things, and I thought I had to do it all by myself. And then I couldn't really lean on my team until I felt like I was contributing enough to the process. And it wasn't until I realized that sharing my successes, big or small, and sharing my failures, big or small, made me a better teammate. It made my product better. It made us all better. So everything you go through in life and all the success you've achieved to this point, I know you haven't done it yourself. So always remember, acknowledge your amazing parents, family, friends, everyone's around you, your coaches, your athletic directors, because success is better together. But at the same token, when we talk about team and we always say, there's no I in team, there's no we or me and we, those are all true, but I think that something that gets a little lost in that conversation is remembering that the best way to be the best teammate is by being true to who you are. There's a difference between sacrificing things like going out with friends, going early to practice, staying late, all of those things, those are beautiful sacrifices that help you be the best version of yourself and get the most out of you and your team. But you should never sacrifice who you are, because who you are as a person, what you stand for, that's what makes you the best teammate you can be. That's why you are all here today, because you stay true to who you are and what you believe in. And sometimes I think when we think about it, we think these have to be these big, massive, life-altering events. It can be little things. You know, I was reflecting on the way here. We do a show every week. It's a show during Bronco season. It's always with a Broncos player, and I interview a player, and it's a great show. But there was always a segment that like just didn't resonate with me, didn't really feel right. And I felt like I stayed quiet about it for so long, right? That's such like a little thing, but it didn't sit with who I was. So I brought it to my producer and my photographer, and we talked about it, and we hashed it out, and we came up with a great new plan that I think helped me develop better relationships with these players that I talked to. It helped the show flow better, and we've ended up having such a good product. That's such a small thing, right? It doesn't seem like a big thing, but when we talk about staying true to who you are, whether that's in work, whether that's in school, whether that's at home, whether that's on your team. It can be little things or it can be these big, massive, life-altering things, but always remembering that you have so much value, and your biggest value is in your voice and being who you are. That's what makes you the best teammate. So never sacrifice that. And today, let's celebrate all of you and everyone who helped get you here. I'm so excited to be here. I do want to introduce a couple of people first. The one and only T.R. Ellis, just an absolute legend, you guys. T.R. began her coaching career back in 1979 in Amarillo, Texas, coaching 8th grade girls volleyball, basketball, and track. She joined Douglas County High School in the early 90s, later led Chaparral's volleyball program from 97 to 2014. Over her career, she earned 2 state titles in undefeated season, multiple league championships, coached elite athletes, including All-Americans, a National Player of the Year. She's a multi-time Colorado Coach of the Year and was inducted into the Chaska Hall of Fame and CHSAA Hall of Fame. TR remains active in high school activities, volunteering with CHSAA and state volleyball tournament annually. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. T.R. Ellis. The best. Our other presenter is the amazing Bethany Brookins. Bethany is the Associate Commissioner for the Colorado High School Activities Association, which I know you all know CHSAA very well. She serves athletic administrators and student athletes across the entire state of Colorado. Proud graduate of Overland High School, Bethany was a 3-sport athlete in tennis, volleyball, and basketball. Experiences she credits with shaping her leadership and lifelong love of sports. She went on to play collegiate basketball and tennis at Davidson College, later earned her MBA from the University of Colorado, Denver. Today, she oversees multiple sports at CHSAA and is a passionate advocate for educationally based athletics, Title IX, and expanding leadership opportunities for women. So please join me in a round of applause for Miss Bethany Brookins. All right, a little housekeeping. As Brad mentioned, Legend and Cimarron, can I get you guys, your winners, to quietly make your way over here to the on-deck area by Mrs. Porter? While you do that, I'll talk a little more. Ladies and gentlemen, each year our DCSD neighborhood middle schools and high schools conduct a rigorous selection process that involves coaches, teachers, school staff, administration, and their athletic department. So pretty much everybody, to narrow it down, a very tough decision to 5 outstanding female student athletes from their school. Just think about it, just 5. Out of thousands of participants in our athletic programs, only 90 are chosen for this prestigious recognition. It is an honor today to celebrate these young women who not only participate in their school's athletic programs, but do so with exceptional character, leadership, dedication, and distinction. These remarkable athletes, they set the standard of excellence in their schools, and they inspire the next generation of female athletes to make their mark on the world. Today really is the best day of the year, honoring these incredible young women. So, all that being said, I want to welcome you to the 2026 Girls and Women in Sports celebration and get going with our first feeder area group of winners.
Let's celebrate the amazing winners from Legend High School and Cimarron Middle School.
Yeah, the ladies want you coming. You've been thunderstruck. Thunderstruck. Yeah, thunderstruck. 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 Thunderstruck.
It's a true privilege to share about Legend Feeder area winners. Before I do, I would like to have Mountain Vista and Mountain Ridge winners quietly line up on the on-deck area. All right, let's begin and share about Cimarron Middle School winners. Ana Flora Reyes. Ana Flora is the kind of person you want in your class and on your team. She shared the athletic director, Ty Barnes, describing her as a mature, fun, and funny. Her coach, Kara Thomas, added that Ana Flora exemplifies what it means to be a student athlete, noting how she balances commitment and accountability with maturity and purpose on and off the court through her kindness, humor, and positivity. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Ana Flora shared, "I've learned how to balance sports and school, play multiple sports with support from my teachers, and use what I learn in one sport to help me in others. I have also learned how important my teammates' support is and how much it matters to be part of the team." Ana Flores Reyes. Annie Wynn. Annie is an amazing student athlete, shared A.D. Barnes, noting that she has played literally every offered sport. Wow. And is a ferocious learner in the classroom and on the court. Her coach, Thomas Patterson, described Annie as an exceptional teammate who leads with passion and compassion and consistently supports others. while Coach Courtney Kay added that Annie's academic excellence, athletic versatility, and relentless competitiveness inspire her teammates to push through challenges. Reflecting on her middle school athletic experience, Annie shared, "I've learned that I work hard, listen to the people around me, and focus on making choices I can control with my teammates and coaches, lessons that will help me succeed beyond middle school." Annie Wynn. Cora Binford. Cora Binford brings joy, effort, and positivity into everything she does at Cimarron Middle School. Mr. Barnes shares that Cora always has fun and works hard no matter what she's doing, and that her smile and positive attitude show up both in the classroom and on the field. Coach Patterson describes Cora as an outstanding student-athlete whose hard work, adaptability, and team-first mindset allows her to balance academics and athletics while stepping into whatever role her team needs. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Kara shared, "I've learned that it doesn't matter what other people think. It's if you try your best and put in your effort, you can be successful in anything you do. And I've learned to keep pushing toward my goals and not give up." Cora Binford. Madison Johansson. Madison embodies the spirit of GWS Day through her passion, her perseverance, and joyful leadership. Shared Coach Deb Stewart, describing her as a multi-sport student-athlete who competes with determination while uplifting others through encouragement, friendship, and inclusivity. Cimarron AD Ty Barnes added that Madison is a great leader among her peers. She plays with a visible passion and joy and does everything she can for her team and brings a smile into every space she enters. Reflecting on her middle school sports journey, Madison said, "I have learned how to be a better team player. When I was competing in sports at the beginning of middle school, I had a difficult time being supportive of other teammates and always wanted to be the center of attention. But now I've learned to help others to be my best and to be a cheerleader for others." Madison Johansson. Remy Greenstreet. Remy consistently sets the tone as a leader at Cimarron Middle School. Through her quiet confidence and commitment, Coach Kara Thomas shared that Remy is a student-athlete who leads by example, noting that the standard of excellence she sets and the focus and passion she brings to every opportunity. Mr. Barnes added that Remy is a model student, highlighting her leadership as the president of the NJHS, along with her kindness, positivity, and the respect she earns from both students and teachers. Reflecting on what middle school sports teach her, Remy shared, "I learned that I need to always care about all my teammates and lift each other up. I learned that I need to be there for my teammates and help them, whether it's for a play on the court or help with homework. I need to be present and join together as a community." Remy Greenstreet. Let's give a huge round of applause for Cimarron Middle School, and now we're going to honor legend. Addison Ice. Addison Ice's journey to succeed in girls golf is defined by growth, joy, and relentless effort. Athletic Director Don Shimington shared that Addison is a former baseball player, good for you, girl, who discovered golf in high school. She is now a three-time state qualifier who finished in the top 10 last season while helping her team earn a second-place finish, adding that her smile and joy and unmatched work ethic inspire everyone around her. Her coach, Jay Nelson, echoed that impact, saying big things come in small packages. As he described Addison as a 4-year letter winner, captain first team, all-league player, and all-state athlete who leads by example both on the course and in the classroom, as she continues to pursue excellence at the state level. Looking ahead, Addison plans to continue both her academic and athletic journey at Newberry College in South Carolina. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Addison shared, I want to be remembered as someone who was hardworking and always gave everything I had to my team. I want people to remember that when I stepped on the basketball court, my effort was never questioned and my energy was nothing but contagious. When my team needed someone to step up, I wanted to be the first person they looked to. If I am remembered as someone who never stopped believing in the value of effort and leadership, then I will know I left a meaningful impact on my team. Addison Ice. Lucy Thompson. Lucy is the greatest athlete in legend history. Wow. That's a claim to fame. Shared Mr. Shimington, describing a competitor who pairs unmatched natural ability with extraordinary work ethic and became the first athlete to compete in 2 state titles on the same day. Coach Darren Pitzer added that coaching Lucy is like watching a human highlight reel in 3 sports, highlighting her dominance in softball and flag football, her state receiving record, and her humility despite elite success. Coach Kristen Shirk reinforced that while Lucy's athleticism stands out, it is her character, resilience, leadership, and ability to balance academics and sports and life that truly set her apart as a role model whose passion lifts everyone around her. Looking ahead, Lucy has committed to continue her softball career at the University of Nebraska. Reflecting on the legacy she hopes to leave, Lucy shared, I want to be remembered as a leader who set the standard every day, someone who didn't just talk about hard work, discipline, and commitment, but lived it in the way others could follow. More than anything, I hope the underclassmen see me as someone who believed in them, pushed them, and made them feel like they belonged. I hope to leave all the programs of Legend High School that I played for better than when I got there. Lucy Thompson. Madison Scheibel. Is Madison here today? Okay. Miley Stearns. Miley has stepped confidently into a leadership role as the lone returning starter from Legend's state runner-up basketball team, leading the tone through her consistency and work ethic. Mr. Shimington shared that Miley mentors new teammates, actively seeks opportunities to lead, and is the definition of effort in the unseen hours, elevating everyone around her. Her coach, Darren Pitzer, added that Miley fully embraces her role, describing her energy, speed, toughness, and relentless work ethic as qualities that have lifted the program to a new standard and established her as one of Colorado's top point guards. After graduating from Legend, Miley plans to continue her basketball career at the collegiate level while pursuing a major in business and a minor in biology. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Miley shared, I want to be remembered as someone who was hardworking and always gave everything I had to my team. I want people to remember that when I stepped on the basketball court, my effort was never questioned and my energy was nothing but contagious. When my team needed someone to step up, I wanted to be the first person they'd look to. If I am remembered as someone who never stopped believing in the value of effort and leadership, then I will know I left a meaningful impact on my team. Miley Stearns. Reese Bachart. Is Reese here today? Well, she's very accomplished. Let's give our Legend High School winners a big round of applause.
I put
A well-deserved round of applause for our winners from Mountain Vista High School and Mountain Ridge Middle School.
I'm listening batteries today. I'm so confident that I'm unstoppable today. Unstoppable today.
All right, I'm excited to share about our Mountain Vista Theater area winners. Before I do, I'd like to have our Ponderosa and Sagewood winners quietly start to line up on the on-deck area. And also just a note, in order to respectfully monitor our time, we would ask that we're going to do applause at the conclusion of the middle school and then at the conclusion of the high school, so not after each person. All right, let's start with our Mountain Ridge Middle School winners. Emmy Bittler. Leadership and confidence define Emmy Bittler's impact at Mountain Ridge Middle School. Athletic Director Mark Sikora described Emmy as a leadership powerhouse, praising her tireless work ethic, commitment, and ability to hold herself to high standards, both academically and athletically. Her coach, Mark Elliott, shared that Emmy recently discovered her purpose through sports, a journey that helped her shape her identity and build her confidence, noting how she actively recruits other girls into sports while emphasizing character over winning. Through her involvement in athletics, student council, and the Interact Club, Emmy has grown into a positive role model across the school. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Emmy shared, "I have learned that trying a new sport can bring you to a new interest. When I started wrestling, I wasn't sure I would like it, but now it's one of my favorite sports, and I'll be continuing my wrestling journey through high school and beyond." Emmy Kleinsasser. Emmy is the kindest student athlete you will meet, shared Mr. Mark Sikora, describing her infectious optimism, compassion, and relentless dedication to both academics and athletics. Her coach, Karen, added that Emmy gives 110% without excuses in cross-country basketball and track, bringing joy, grit, and leadership to every team she joins. Known for her integrity and encouragement, Emmy consistently lifts others up while holding herself to a high standard. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Emmy shared, through middle school sports, I have learned that when you give it your all, you will see the reward in its fullest. Kendall King. Balancing multiple sports, academics, and leadership roles comes naturally to Kendall King. Mr. Sikora described Kendall as a phenomenal student athlete who gives 100% effort in everything she does, praising her intelligence, creativity, and ability to mentor and support her peers. Her coach, Paul Cole, shared that Kendall excels across multiple sports and in JHS, noting her reliability, diligence, and commitment to empowering her teammates. Kendall's ability to stay organized while staying involved has set her up for success. Reflecting on her middle school experience, Kendall shared, playing 3 sports each year has taught me how to balance school, clubs, sports, and my social life. It gave me the structure I need to be successful in high school. Sophia Barajas. Resilience stands at the heart of Sophia's journey at Mountain Ridge. Her coach, Steve Lopez, shared that Sophia is an exceptional leader across flag football, basketball, and track, highlighting her ability to maintain a positive attitude while battling severe scoliosis and even stepping into a coaching role when physically limited. Mountain Ridge AD Mark Sikora added that Sophia's relentless dedication, work ethic, and infectious positivity inspire both teammates and classmates, making her an invaluable part of the school community. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Sophia shared, middle school sports have helped me through many lessons and hardships. Most important is patience and perseverance. You just can't give up if you don't agree with something or someone. Zelda Freiberg. Consistency, kindness, and quiet leadership defined Zelda's impact at Mountain Ridge Middle School. Mr. Sikora shared that Zelda balances academic excellence with athletic grit, leading by example through integrity, perseverance, and responsibility. Her coach, Michelle Ahrens, describes Zelda as an exceptional student athlete in volleyball and basketball, noting her strong teamwork, work ethic, and willingness to step into leadership roles, even managing a team when needed. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Zelda shared, never be afraid to try something new. Let's give a round of applause for all of our Mountain Ridge Middle School winners. We are now happy to honor our 5 amazing Mountain Vista High School winners. Ariana Akey. Competing across 4 sports, Ariana sets the standard for versatility and leadership at Mountain Vista High School. Her coach, Ken Ortega, described Ariana as an unbelievable athlete and leader, emphasizing her humility, work ethic, and ability to bring teammates together, qualities that helped guide the program to back-to-back state titles in flag football. Athletic director Jim Flanagan added that Ariana became a 2-time state champion and Colorado Player of the Year in flag football, leading the team to a perfect 38-0 record as quarterback and linebacker, while also earning a state championship in the 4x400 relay. Ariana plans to pursue civil engineering and hopes to serve in the Peace Corps. And reflecting on what she wants to be remembered for, she shared, "I want to be remembered for my sportsmanship and character on and off the field." Braylon Looney. Braylon brought an unwavering toughness to our program, and that was infectious, shared Coach Ken Ortega, describing the effort and intensity she brought to every snap, practice, and game. As a multi-sport athlete at Mountain Vista, Braylon competed in soccer, lacrosse, and girls flag football, becoming a 2-time All-State player and captain of a back-to-back state championship team that went 38-0. Mr. Flanagan highlighted her impact on both sides of the ball, noting that she led the team in touchdown receptions and tackles, earned national All-American honors, and competed in the All-American Games in Texas. Braylon will continue her flag football career at Wingate University in North Carolina, and reflecting on the legacy she hopes to leave, she shared, "I want to be remembered as a leader who gave everything, lifted my teammates, and helped build the love and chemistry that made us great on and off the field. In my sport, I hope I'm remembered as a pioneer in the first generation of girls flag football, proving it deserves respect through hard work, football IQ, championships, and national recognition. At my school, I want to leave a champion's standard that continues long after me." Claire Guberson. Claire's success at Mountain Vista High School is built on discipline, consistency, and elite competitive habits. Her coach, Ethan Rouse, described Claire as a fierce competitor whose work ethic and mindset led to 3 top 10 state finishes and made her a vital part of the 2024 Nike NXN National Championship team. Mr. Flanagan added that Claire was a 3-year varsity letter winner who contributed to 3 league championships, a state championship, and the first national title in school history. Claire will continue both her academic and athletic journey at Vanderbilt University, and reflecting on her experience, she shared that she was proud to contribute to the NXN third-place team in 2023, the 2024 state championship team, and the NXN championship team in 2024. Presley Nichols. All right, we're going to move on to Kira Woody. Leadership defines Kira Woody's impact at Mountain Vista High School, both in the pool and on the soccer field. As a varsity captain in swimming and a core defender in girls soccer, Kira consistently leads through accountability, empathy, and connection. Mr. Flanagan shared that Kira was part of the 2024 state championship soccer team and scored the overtime game-winning goal in the state quarterfinals to send the team to the semifinals. Her coach, Tim Byers, described Kira as an exceptional leader, while coach Teresa Echtermeyer added that her kindness, integrity, and servant leadership have shaped the program since her freshman year. Kira plans to attend college and study child development, and reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she shared, "I hope people remember me as a leader they looked up to, by the way I inspire others, led by example, and created a positive environment where people could trust each other and be confident to push themselves. It is how I connected with the people on my team to make them better athletes and people so they can continue that for years in the future." Let's give our Mountain Vista High School winners a huge round of applause.
I wanna let my head down while I'm staring down your face. Wanna go till lights out. Take it right back to my place. You watch your mind. If you don't know what this is, I tell them one by one, some one by one. Twist my wrist. Girls like this, start with a track. Eyes on me.
Give a huge round of applause for the winners from Ponderosa High School and Sagewood Middle School.
Just keep watching. Just keep watching. Just keep. Just keep watching. I wanna make my mind up, 'cause I know where this might go. Wanna take your time up, but you make it difficult. Your friends, they try, but they don't know what this is.
I'd like to ask Rock Canyon and Rocky Heights winners to make your way over to the on-deck area. And as you do that, let's celebrate our winners, starting from Sagewood Middle School, starting with Emerson Gompert. Quiet leadership can be powerful, and Emerson Gompert proves that every day. Athletic Director Megan Hill shared that while Emerson might not be the loudest voice on the court or the track, her support for her teammates is constant and unmistakable, adding that she is never afraid to ask for feedback because she knows it helps her grow. Her coach, Noah Weinman, described Emerson as hardworking, respectful, and coachable, who takes feedback in stride and stays focused on improvement. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Emerson said, "I learned I can accomplish anything by working hard." Maddie Woodmere. Trying something new changed everything for Maddie. Mrs. Hill shared that Maddie decided to try cross country for the first time in 6th grade and quickly discovered a love for it and for every other sport she's taken on at Sagewood, praising her dedication to work hard both in and out of school. Her coach, Sean Frazier, described Maddie as an incredible athlete with a positive attitude who gives her all in academics and sports, noting her leadership on the basketball court and her character and confidence when trying flag football for the first time this season. Reflecting on her experience, Maddie shared, "Participating in sports has helped me learn that I am disciplined, dedicated, and capable of pushing through hard things. I discovered how I can handle pressure and build confidence on a team that will help me reach higher expectations in high school and beyond." Michaela Rodriguez. Energy, passion, and joy follow Michaela Peanut Rodriguez wherever she goes. Sagewood AD Mrs. Hill described Michaela as a firecracker whose excitement and enthusiasm makes her impossible to miss, praising the way she champions her peers' success and takes on every challenge with a smile. Her coach added that Michaela's dynamic spirit, versatility, and strong work ethic shine across volleyball, basketball, and track, noting that even those who haven't coached her feel her positive impact. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Michaela shared, "I learned that I can always find a way to push through. Whether it was a bad game or a slow time, I always come back, and I think that's one of my best traits." Molly Morand. Molly Moran brings heart, kindness, and leadership into everything she does. Her coaches describe Molly as someone who is unafraid of trying, failing, and learning, highlighting her relentless growth, integrity, and positive influence across basketball and volleyball. Mrs. Hill also shared that Molly is a hardworking student athlete who deeply values being part of Sagewood's programs, always looking for ways to improve and support her peers. Reflecting on her middle school experience, Molly shared, "I learned that I enjoy being active and playing basketball and volleyball. I also enjoy having a team who loves me and helps me. I learned how to be a leader and how to be helpful when others can't." Morgan Green. She's wearing green, I love it. All right, stepping outside her comfort zone has been a defining part of Morgan Green's journey. Mrs. Hill shared that Morgan challenges herself daily, works hard in track and in the classroom, and advocates for herself with teachers and coaches, especially when facing injuries, bringing a positive energy to Sagewood. Her coach, Sean Frazier, described Morgan as full of integrity and determination, praising her dedication to her team and growth as both an athlete and a person. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Morgan shared, "I learned that everything takes practice and you don't know what you can do unless you try. Working on skills daily and trying new things can really help you reach your goals." Let's give a huge round of applause for our Sagewood Middle School winners. You are amazing. All right, now let's honor our 5 amazing Ponderosa High School winners, starting with Emerson Buser. Positivity is Emerson's calling card, and it's felt far beyond the dance floor. Go dancers. Athletic Director Nate Hill shared that Emerson is an incredibly positive member of both the dance team and the school community, praising her work ethic and the example she sets for future dancers and athletes. Her coach, Morgan Benham, described how Emerson's leadership has elevated the entire program, noting that she leads with heart, pushes herself with determination, and inspires teammates through encouragement and belief. Emerson plans to attend Colorado State University, and reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she said, "I want to be remembered as an approachable leader, someone people come to, someone who showed up, cared deeply, and always left things as I found them." Addison, Spain. Leadership shows up differently in every space, and for Addison, Spain, it shows up everywhere. Her coach, Pat Laporta, shared that Addie strives to be a leader in any environment, describing her as one of the hardest workers and most consistent teammates, always finding ways to support those around her. Mr. Hill added that Addison is a rare student athlete, competing in 3 sports and making a meaningful impact on every team while serving as a positive role model across the school. Addison plans to study kinesiology with the goal of pursuing a career in sports medicine. And reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she shared, "I want to be remembered as someone who always brought a positive attitude and gave my full effort in everything I did, whether in my sport, school, or extracurriculars. I hope I showed others that working hard and caring deeply can coexist with having fun. More than anything, I want to leave a legacy for girls after me, reminding them to give 100% while still finding joy and light in the process." Addison Tucker. No Addison? Shout out Addison. Woo! All right. Lila Twerk. No Lila? Shout out Lila. We miss you. Zoe Foco. All right. All right. Culture matters, and Zoe Foco helped shape it at Ponderosa. Her coach, Amanda Villari, described Zoe as an exceptional student athlete whose leadership extended far beyond performance, balancing elite competition in cross country and track with academics, music, service, and school leadership. Mr. Hill added that Zoe is an incredible competitor and great leader, crediting her as a key part of the growing program and setting a standard for others to follow. Zoe plans to pursue collegiate athletics as a competitive runner while exploring her academic interests and reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for. Zoe said, "I want to be remembered as someone whose influence extended beyond performance, helping build my environment of support, joy, laughter, and for the positive impact I had on team, sport, and school, on and off the track." Let's give our winners a huge round of applause.
Jocking on them, hate them, hate them. When I do that soldier boy, I need to let that crack that thing now. I'm jocking on you, and if we get the fight, girl, I'm coming. You catch me at your luncheon party, yes, I crack it every day. Haters get mad, cause I got me some baby. Soldier boy, I been it, why me crack it, why me crack that soldier boy, that Superman. Crack that soldier, crack that soldier, why me crack that soldier, crack that soldier, soldier boy, I been it, why me crack it, why me crack that soldier boy, that Superman. Why me crack that soldier, 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 why me super so yeah, I'm next to A-Rap, and he gon' crank it up for sure. Haters wanna beat me, soldier boy, I'm the man. They be looking at my neck, my name is the one. So don't do it like me, I seen you try to do it like me, man, that good. Soldier boy, I been it, why me crack it, why me crack that soldier boy, that Superman. Why me crack that soldier, 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 soldier boy, I been it,
Put your hands together for our winners from Rock Canyon High School and Rocky Heights Middle.
Crank that song, now why me? Crank that song, now why me? Crank that song, now why me? Crank that song, now why? All too fresh, I'm feeling. Why me crank it? Why me crank that Roosevelt and super soak that? Super soak that. Super soak that. Super soak that. Super soak that. All too fresh, now why me? Why me shuffle? Why me? Why me crank that soldier boy? Now Superman. Superman. Superman.
Before we get to the brilliance of the Rock Canyon feeder area winners, I'd like to ask Thunder Ridge and Ranch View to quietly line up over in the on-deck circle, please. Okay, it's time. Let's start by celebrating our winners from Rocky Heights. Addison Cole. Addison Coley. Yes? Addison leads with confidence, positivity, and a genuine love for volleyball. Athletic Director Cullen Hilsendager shared that Addison shines both on the court and in the classroom, noting her strong character, determination, and commitment to excellence in everything she pursues. Her coach, Paige Taylor, described Addison as a natural leader, an encouraging teammate who brings passion, integrity, and a strong work ethic to both volleyball and academics. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Addison shares, "Middle school sports have allowed me to understand the value of patience. Everyone learns and improves at a different pace, and success comes from understanding those differences. As I move through high school and beyond, patience will help me work better with others and grow as a leader." Avon Cummings. Avon, intensity, respect, and heart defined Avon on the wrestling mat. Mr. Hillendager shared that Avon approaches wrestling with commitment and a deep understanding of the sport, earning the trust of her coaches and teammates through leadership and care for others. Her coaches, Scott McCowan and Rodney Graham, described Avon as a fiery competitor who has even been coined as assistant coach for her wrestling knowledge, praising her courage on the mat, kindness off, and the discipline and honesty that inspire everyone in the wrestling room. Reflecting on what wrestling has taught her, Avon shared, "It has grown both my physical and mental strength. I've learned to push through mental blocks and physical barriers, and I've learned tenacity and patience. I know nothing comes without hard work, dedication, and a lot of sweat." Charlie Gunther. Effort and resilience define the way Charlie Gunther competes. Her coach, Paige Taylor, described Charlie as an exceptional volleyball player who leads by example through hard work, dedication, and encouragement, always giving her best effort. Mr. Hillendager also shared that Charlie consistently demonstrates leadership through determination, sportsmanship, and positive growth, supporting and motivating her teammates both on the court and in the classroom. Reflecting on her experience, Charlie shared, "I have learned that I won't give up when things get tough. Losses and tough games taught me how to rise and push myself. RHMS volleyball brought me close friends and amazing coaches and reminded me how much I value being on a team working towards a common goal." Dakota Brewmeister. Dakota represents the epitome of the term student athlete, shared her coach Sharon Metchix, describing her as an incredibly hard worker who leads with integrity across academics, athletics, and team settings. Mr. Hillendager added that Dakota's dedication, leadership, and positive influence over the past 3 years has set a powerful example for others to follow. Noting that the consistency she gives her best in every practice, competition, and in the classroom. Reflecting on what sports have taught her, Dakota shared, "Sports taught me about teamwork and responsibility and to persevere while pushing myself toward my potential. As Sonia Ross said, failure I can live with, not trying is what I can't handle. Gianna Parker. Energy and commitment define Gianna every time she steps on the basketball court. Her coach, Carolyn Weinberg, shared that Gianna plays with intensity, passion, and relentless effort, praising her tenacity, focus, and dedication to improvement, both athletically and academically. Mr. Hillensdager added that Kiana approaches athletics and academics with the same drive and responsibility, consistently giving her full effort and leading by example, reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her. Kiana shared, playing middle school sports helped me to understand my strengths in team building and leadership. Working with new people taught me the perseverance and how to balance school, club teams, and the sports that I love. Let's give a round of applause for these girls. Rock Canyon. Gianna Blanco. Gianna. Word on the street is she just goes by G. That's what I heard. Joy and competitiveness define Gianna Blanco's presence on the volleyball court. Athletic Director Tom Bernays shared that it has been a pleasure watching G compete over the past 4 years, praising her as an outstanding player and positive teammate who consistently represents Rock Canyon with excellence. Her coach, Angela Hansen, added that Gianna embodies exactly what a Jaguar student athlete should be, highlighting her leadership, her work ethic, and her ability to balance athletics with strong academics while uplifting those around her. G will attend the University of Kansas, rock chalk girl, all right, to study business and marketing, reflecting on the legacy she hopes to leave. G shared, I want to be remembered as a great teammate and a leader on and off the court. I also want to be remembered as the first volleyball player in Colorado history to serve a perfect 25-0 game. Did that happen? That's amazing. Catherine Stilth. I have had the privilege of working with Catherine for the past 4 years, shared coach Amanda Buchata, who described her as an incredibly talented athlete with a strong work ethic, outstanding leadership, and consistently positive attitude. An all-state and all-American cheerleader, Catherine has played a major role in supporting Rock Canyon athletics and strengthening the Spirit program. Mr. Berkey highlighted her impact, noting that Catherine consistently shows up for Jaguar teams and representing the school with pride and excellence. Catherine plans to attend college and major in accounting or finance, building a strong foundation for a future career in business. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Catherine shared, I want to be remembered as someone who always showed up and gave their best for the team and school. Most importantly, I hope to be remembered for fostering a positive and supporting team culture and representing my school with pride and integrity on and off the mat. Addison Rolfe. 3 straight state championships tell part of Addison Rolfe's story, but her impact on Rock Canyon goes way beyond the medals. As a 4-year team member of the dance team, including 3 years on varsity and serving as captain her junior and senior seasons, Addison has left a lasting mark on the program. Her coach, Christina Leona, shared that Addison is a standout student and a community leader who has earned state, league, regional, and national honors while setting the standard for the team. Mr. Brisky added that Addison is an exceptional student athlete who not only strives for competitive success in dance, but also works tirelessly to support other Rock Canyon sports programs. Addison's goal is to attend Texas A&M University, major in kinesiology, and pursue a doctorate in physical therapy, while hoping to combine dance with a Division I Texas A&M dance team. Reflecting on her time at Rock Canyon, Addison shared, I have loved attending and representing Rock Canyon for the last 4 years. It has been an honor and a privilege to be part of the legacy the Rock Canyon dance team has established. I will take everything I've learned with me as I move on to college and hope to make Rock Canyon proud. Logan Carey. Is Logan here today? Again, very accomplished. Emerson McDonald. Emerson. Emerson McDonald competes with her heart, intensity, and an unwavering commitment to the people around her. Her coach, Peyton Holloway, described Emerson as the definition of the exceptional student athlete, highlighting her unselfishness, competitiveness, and deep care for her teammates and coaches. Rock Canyon AD, Mr. Bruschi, added that Emerson is a fierce competitor who strives for excellence both on the court and in the classroom, and has been an amazing, outstanding Jaguar throughout her 4 years. Emerson plans to pursue higher education and study business, and reflecting on what she wants to be remembered for, she shared, "As the buzzer sounds, I hang up my basketball shoes one last time. I want to be remembered as a friend. I want to be remembered for not just the moments on the court, but who I was with my teammates, a best friend." Cool. Let's give a round of applause for Rock Canyon athletes.
The foyer, take a number. I was lightning before the thunder.
Thunder.
Thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Thunder, thunder. Thunder. Kids were laughing in my classes while I was scheming for the masses. Who do you think you are? Dreaming about being a big star. They say you're basic, they say you're easy. You always riding in the backseat. Now I'm smiling from the stage while you were clapping in the nosebleeds. Thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Thunder. Thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Thunder, thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Thunder, thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Thunder, thunder, feel the thunder. Lightning and the thunder. Thunder, thunder, feel the thunder.
Give it up for the outstanding winners from Thunder Ridge High School and Ranch View Middle School.
Before we get to the brilliance of our Thunder Ridge feeder area winners, I'd like to ask our Castleview and Castle Rock Middle School winners to quietly start making their way to the on-deck area. Thank you. And now it's time. Let's start by celebrating our winners from Ranch View Middle School. Genevieve Limoni. Dependability and kindness define Genevieve's presence on the volleyball court. Athletic director David Pop describes her as super reliable and coachable, noting that she finds open spots, plays confidently in both the front and back court, and sets and passes with precision, all while being a genuinely kind teammate and solid student. Coach Kelsey adds that Genevieve is an exceptionally dependable, coachable athlete known for kindness and teamwork, praising her court awareness, versatility, and positive cooperative presence. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Genevieve shared, "I've learned that it doesn't just take one person to do something. We count on each other for things, and having a team and a good group on court is so beneficial and important. In volleyball, it took everyone playing their part and putting in effort to succeed, and it's the same way in life." Gemma Schilling. Hard work and growth tell Gemma's story. Mr. Pop shared that Gemma is a hardworking, kind, and talented multi-sport athlete who gives her all in basketball, volleyball, and the classroom, always cheering for others and even helping younger players improve. Coach Kelsey highlighted Gemma's journey, noting that she moved from the B team in 7th grade to the A team through dedication, growth, and leadership, all while supporting teammates along the way. Reflecting on her middle school experience, Gemma shared, "Being a friend, working as a team, and making sure to have fun is what it's all about." June Green. June's growth as a basketball player has been impossible to miss. Coach Craig shared that June has shown outstanding improvement through dedication, consistent practice, and a strong work ethic while supporting teammates and modeling humility and leadership both on and off the court. Mr. Pop echoed that sentiment, describing June as one of the most improved and respected team members who excels academically and brings a caring presence to everything she does. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, June shared, "I learned that teamwork and collaboration are so important because you learn to work effectively with others toward a common goal. I also learned discipline and time management, which is critical because you have to balance sports commitments with schoolwork and other responsibilities." Lizzie Queen. Mastery and determination set Lizzie Queen apart. Mr. Pop described Lizzie as an incredibly talented runner and strong student who never stops until she has mastered whatever challenge is in front of her, whether on the track or in the classroom. Coach Allison added that Lizzie pairs remarkable skills with relentless work ethic, calling her passion, discipline, and drive the foundation of her success as a competitor and a teammate. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Lizzie shared, "Middle school sports taught me to set goals for myself and my team, and how to work with a team to pursue those goals. Sports gives us a chance to test ourselves against ourselves and our peers while helping teammates and staying healthy and appreciating everyone's hard work and achievements." Savannah Surovic. Balancing demanding academics with high-level soccer and competitive running, Savannah sets a powerful example. Coach Allison describes Savannah as a standout multi-sport athlete who works hard, supports others, and goes the extra mile, noting her perfect score on last year's ELA state test as a reflection of her discipline and focus. Ranchview AD Mr. Pop added that Savannah is an awesome teammate who consistently looks out for others and brings a great attitude to everything she does. Reflecting on her journey, Savannah shared, "Through cross country and track, I have learned that in the end, I am able to push through pain and that I just need to keep working at something I want to accomplish because consistency really does pay off." Let's give a huge round of applause for our Ranchview Middle School winners. We're happy to honor our 5 amazing Thunder Ridge High School winners. Samantha Oliver. At Thunder Ridge, Samantha has been a steady presence and a driving force within the softball program. Her coach described Samantha as a cornerstone of the team, highlighting her discipline, toughness, and leadership, as well as her impact offensively and defensively, while elevating the entire program. Athletic Director Josh Stevenson added that Samantha exemplifies dedication and character both on and off the field, embodying the spirit of girls and women in sports through athletics, academics, and service. Samantha plans to attend undergraduate school and continue on to law school. And reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she shared, "I mostly want to be remembered as a kind and respectable leader who has helped others grow with the sport." Madison Wright. Resilience defines Madison's athletic journey at Thunder Ridge. Mr. Stevenson shared that Madison is a standout two-sport athlete whose perseverance through severe injuries reflects remarkable determination and pride in representing her school. Her coach added that as a senior captain, Madison exemplifies excellence, positivity, and a team-first mindset, impacting basketball through leadership and work ethic while pursuing soccer at the collegiate level. Madison will attend Cleveland State University to play Division I soccer, and reflecting on how she hopes to be remembered, she shared, "I would like to be remembered for my positive attitude, the hard work and long hours I put into my craft, being coachable, and persevering through injuries and times when no one else believed in me, using that to work harder and keep my love of the game." Camden Hurt. Leadership and consistency have defined Camden's impact on Thunder Ridge's soccer and beyond. Her coach, Mike Parsons, shared that Camden has been an amazing player and teammate since her freshman year, highlighting her consistency, strong work ethic, communication, and care for others as qualities that set her apart. Mr. Stevenson added that Camden exemplifies what it means to be a Thunder Ridge athlete, noting her leadership, competitive spirit, and role as a key member of the 2023 state championship team. Camden will continue her soccer career at the Division I level at Ole Miss, and reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she shared, "I want to be remembered for my athletic talent, but more importantly, my positive and supportive character on and off the field. I hope my teammates would say I always gave 100% in practice and games, pushing myself and them to be better, and that I contributed to a winning culture through leadership and commitment." Quinn Stranahan. Quinn's influence at Thunder Ridge reaches well beyond her competition. Her coach described Quinn as an elite runner, an outstanding student who balances Division I level talent with humility, kindness, and intentional leadership, elevating everyone around her. Mr. Stevenson echoed that sentiment, noting how Quinn models what high school athletics should be through her commitment, character, and care for others. Quinn will attend Montana State University in Bozeman, where she'll compete in track and cross country while pursuing a degree in health science. Reflecting on the legacy she hopes to leave, Quinn shared, "I would like to be remembered as someone who led by example, a caring peer, and someone who impacted teammates and peers to become the best version of themselves, leaving a legacy others can follow while representing Thunder Ridge in a positive way." Claire Wilson. Doing whatever it takes to win has been the standard Claire Wilson sets every time she competes. Thunder Ridge AD Mr. Stevenson shared that Claire's competitive drive, versatility, and consistency made her a standout across basketball and flag football, while setting a high standard for the entire athletic community. Whether playing half a season in a cast or never leaving the floor during basketball games, Claire's commitment has never wavered. She plans to attend BYU and major in biology, and reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she shared, "I want to be remembered as the person who did whatever it took to win, supporting my teammates and leading by example, fighting until the end with all my heart, and showing that it's not just the winning shot, but the steps it took to get there." Let's give our Thunder Ridge High School winners a huge round of applause. Good job, you guys.
Flying through the city with the speakers up loud.
Give a big round of applause for our winners from Castleview High School and Castle Rock Middle School.
My Savior, pedal down and drive. Drive, pedal down and drive. Just drive. Pedal down and
Over to the lovely on deck area. And as you do that, let's start by celebrating our winners from Castle Rock Middle School, starting with Amelia Allen. Exceptional leadership and commitment is how her coach described Amelia Allen, highlighting the way she continued to support and motivate her teammates even when injured and consistently put the team first. That resilience defined Amelia's time at Castle Rock Middle School. Athletic Director Frank Pallone added that Amelia is a true athlete who works diligently at all that she does, noting that whether in the classroom or on the court, she leads with confidence and a positive attitude. Reflecting on what middle school sports taught her, Amelia shared, "During middle school sports, I learned I can persevere through tough times, push myself beyond my comfort zone, and grow both as an athlete and a person, lessons that I know will help me in high school and beyond." Capri Kissinger. Capri Kissinger brought energy and confidence into every team she joined at Castle Rock Middle School. Mr. Pallone described Capri as an amazing multi-sport student athlete, adding that her personality is contagious and it's hard to be around her without having a smile on your face. Her coach, Michael Pace, emphasized Capri's resilience, heart, and steady work ethic, pointing to the way she supports others while continuing to challenge herself as a leader. Capri reflected on her growth through sports, saying, "I believe that I've learned how to work through difficult issues and how to solve problems, and I'm also learning how to better manage my time and balance school and basketball, which will help me in high school and beyond." Maddie Vandeveer. Maddie was the hardest working person on the court, shared Coach Evan Bennett, describing the determination and focus that Maddie brought to every competition. He also noticed how consistently she listened, improved, and supported her teammates. Whether her team was winning or losing, Mr. Pallone echoed that message, recognizing Maddie as first in the gym, last to leave, and praising her infectious positivity. Reflecting on those experiences, Maddie shared, "Middle school sports taught me to play through adversity, stay mentally tough, trust my teammates and coaches, and build strong relationships, lessons that I will carry with me into high school and beyond." Mariana Miller. Did I say Mariana? Did I say it right? Okay, gotta make sure. The embodiment of a student athlete is how Coach Forrest Sheets described Mariana Miller, pointing to her strong academics, participation in multiple sports, and positive character. Mr. Pallone added that Mariana is a dedicated multi-sport student athlete who works hard, is coachable, and leads by example, always bringing a smile into the space. Reflecting on what middle school sports taught her, Mariana shared, "Resilience has been the biggest thing I've learned, to always come back stronger when you are down, believe in myself, and continue growing as both an athlete and a person as I move into high school and beyond." Presley Brown. Presley is an amazingly talented multi-sport athlete, shared Mr. Pallone, describing her as a true leader on and off the court who is always willing to step up and compete with confidence. Her coach, Allison Gordon, highlighted Presley's dedication, noting her hard work, positive attitude, and the effort she puts into everything she does. Reflecting on what sports gave her, Presley shared, "I learned that I like to engage with different people when playing a fun sport, and this will help me in high school because I can make new friends that have the same likings as me." Let's go ahead and give a huge round of applause for our Castle Rock Middle School winners. Amazing, ladies. All right. Now let's talk Castleview High School, starting with Jaya Dern. She's not here? Shout out, we love you. Woo. All right. Let's move on to Kaya Gilbert. All right. Kaya Gilbert sets a standard of excellence for Castleview volleyball through her competitiveness and commitment to growth. Mr. Dower shared that Kaya pushes herself and her teammates to be their best, while also excelling academically with a 4.16 GPA and a National Honor Society membership. Her coach, Riley Bradbury, highlighted Kaya's impact as a 4-year varsity letter winner, 2-time MVP, multiple All-League and All-State honorees, and AVCA All-Regional and All-American honorable mention. You go, girl. Save some for the rest of us. Let's go. Adding that she pushes herself and teammates to excel every day. Kaya will take that same drive into the Colorado School of Mines to continue her volleyball career. In reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she shared, "I want to be remembered for being a competitor, always playing my hardest, someone who would push and support my teammates and have fun." Layla Loveland. Layla Loveland has been a steady and uplifting presence in the SaberCat basketball, Mr. Dowis shared, and that it is an honor to recognize Layla for her outstanding contributions as a team captain who demonstrates exceptional character, positivity, and genuine care for her teammates. Her coach, Matt Hemma, echoed that sentiment, describing Layla as a key part of the program for many years, known for her humor, leadership, and strong values that make her a role model on and off the court. Layla plans to continue her basketball career at the collegiate level while studying to become a radiology technician. And reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she shared, "I want to be remembered as an exceptional friend, captain, teammate, and person before being known for my athletic ability." Yes, girl. I love that. "I hope my work ethic doesn't go unnoticed and that the program remembers me for the time, effort, and dedication I poured into my achievements throughout my career." Olivia Berkey. Olivia Berkey's influence at Castleview extends far beyond the sidelines. Castleview's AD, Mr. Dowles, described Olivia as a community leader who inspires others through her positivity, determination, and excellence, while maintaining an incredibly high GPA and serving in student government. Her coach, Tatum Reel, shared that Olivia embodies what it means to be a SaberCat, consistently setting high standards in both academics and athletics, and lifting those around her through drive and commitment. Olivia plans to pursue her goal of becoming a veterinarian, and reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she shared, "When I graduate high school, I want to be remembered as an example of what it means to be a Castleview SaberCat. In these past 4 years, I've learned so much about myself through my experiences at Castleview, and joining the tier team my freshman year gave me lessons, growth, and friendship that I will always carry with me." And Logan Baker. Logan Baker's versatility and discipline have made her a standout in both soccer and track at Castleview. Mr. Dowles describes Logan as an outstanding multi-sport athlete, highlighting her leadership, dedication, and remarkable academics, maintaining a GPA over 4.0. Her coach, Shaniqua Baker, added that Logan uses her speed and skill to excel in both sports, inspiring teammates through her grit, work ethic, and commitment to improvement, and plans to continue competing at the collegiate level. Logan plans to attend college, study business, and continue to play her sports competitively. And reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, she shared, "I want to be remembered as a hardworking, coachable teammate who always put the team first, competed with intensity, led by example, and consistently worked to get better in both my sport and the classroom while representing my school with character and respect." All right, let's give our Castleview High School winners a huge round of applause.
I was born to run, I was born for this. Whip, run me like a racehorse, pull me like a ripcord, break me down and build me up. I wanna be the slip, word upon your lip, rather that you rip, break me down and build me up. Whatever it takes, 'cause I love the adrenaline in my veins. I do whatever it takes, 'cause I love how it feels when I break the chain. Whatever it takes, yeah, take me to the top. I'm ready for whatever it takes, 'cause I love the adrenaline in my veins. I do what it takes. Always had a fear of being typical, looking at my body feeling miserable, always hanging on to the visual. I wanna be invisible, looking at my years like I'm out of dumb. Everybody needs to be a part of them, never be enough on the prodigal son. I was born to run, I was born for this. Whip, run me like a racehorse, pull me like a ripcord, break me down and build me up. I wanna be the slip, word upon your lip, rather that you rip, break me down and build me up. Whatever it takes, 'cause I love the adrenaline in my veins. I do whatever it takes, 'cause I love how it feels when I break the chain. Whatever it
egotistical. Don't wanna be the parenthetical, hypothetical, working under something that I'm proud of. Out of the box, an epoxy to the world and the vision we've lost. I'm an apostrophe. I'm just a symbol to remind you that there's more to see. I'm just a product of the system of catastrophe.
Let's hear it for our winners from Chaparral High School and Sierra Middle School.
At least I go down to the grave and die happily. Leave the body to be a part of me. I do what it takes,
Whatever it takes, 'cause I love the adrenaline in my veins. I do whatever it takes, 'cause I love how it feels when I break the chains. Whatever it takes, yeah, take me to the top, I'm ready.
Before we get to the brilliance of our Chaparral Feeder area winners, I'd like to ask Douglas County High School and Mesa Middle School to quietly line up over on the on-deck area. Let's start by celebrating our winners from Sierra Middle School. Alessia Ferreira. Always willing to try something new, Alessia approaches middle school athletics with curiosity, effort, and heart. Athletic Director Rayanne Ray shared that Alessia is a very hardworking and a go-getter who is always looking for ways to learn and grow as both a student and an athlete, while consistently supporting her teammates. Coach Bridget McCoy highlighted Alessia's ability to balance it all, noting that she competes in volleyball and track, participates in the school musical, and is a member of NJHS and supports her team while maintaining a strong 3.83 GPA. Reflecting on her experience, Alessia shared, "I learned about discipline, how to handle big amounts of pressure, and that attitude and the experience are more important than winning." Ashlyn Johnson. Ashlyn is a standout student athlete who perfectly balances a fierce competitive drive with a compassionate heart, shared Coach Marshall Cavett, noting that she competes hard while still being the first to cheer on her teammates and opponents alike. Ms. Ray added that Ashlyn played multiple sports at Sierra, is always ready to step up, never backs down from a challenge, and consistently balances athletics with her academics. Reflecting on what sports have taught her, Ashlyn shared, "I learned that I could do more than what my mind told me. I learned that sometimes you have to stop listening to your mind and just listen to what you know you can do." Brooklyn Reyes. As a new student at Sierra Middle School, Brooklyn quickly made her presence known through her effort, coachability, and passion for the game. Ms. Ray described Brooklyn as a hard-working, coachable athlete who is always looking to improve, both in sports and in the classroom. Coach Bridget McCoy added that Brooklyn competes in volleyball and basketball, brings great enthusiasm to her teams, and balances athletics with a 3.42 GPA. Reflecting on her middle school journey, Brooklyn shared, "Through middle school sports, I learned resilience, discipline, and the importance of teamwork. I learned how to handle challenges, learn from mistakes, and keep improving. These lessons will help me succeed in high school and beyond, both on and off the court." Cecilia Martinez, Cece, as she's called by her friends. When faced with a challenge, Cece leans in. Sierra AD Miss Ray shared that Cece never backs down, is deeply committed to being her best academically and athletically, and can always be found supporting teammates when she's not competing herself. Coach Aaron Wagner spoke to Cece's journey in wrestling, noting that she didn't just follow in her family footsteps, she embraced the challenge, worked relentlessly, and competed furiously, and thrived in a male-dominated sport with grit and determination. Atta girl. Reflecting on her growth, Cece shared, "I have learned more about how strong you have to be mentally more than physically. Participating in sports has given me so much confidence and allows me to express myself outside of school. Sports has let me learn more about my body and the great things it allows me to do." Gianna Lins. In every program, there's someone whose energy lifts everyone around them. And at Sierra Middle School, that person is Guyana. Coach Shelby Estes shared that Guyana is the heart of unified sports. Fearless, joyful, and always ready to compete, connect, and encourage others with a smile. Coach Vicky Castillo added that Gianna's teammates know her as the one who brings the laughs, keeps the attitude positive, and plays with genuine kindness, earning her the well-deserved title of Queen of the Town. Miss Ray echoed that Gianna brings incredible energy, is a great teammate, and lights up every court and field she steps on. Reflecting on her experience, Gianna shared, "I learned how to be a team player and work together to accomplish goals." Let's give a round of applause for Sierra Middle School winners. I'm so happy to honor the 5 amazing athletes from my beloved Chaparral High School. Taylor Snyder. Taylor is a hard-working inspiration to her teammates and coaches, shared cheer coach Heather Saunders, highlighting her kindness, respect, and thoughtfulness as a captain who set the tone for both practices and competitions. Athletic director Rob Johnson added that Taylor's dedication, spirit, and leadership uplift everyone around her, and that Chaparral is truly a better place because of her presence. Taylor will attend Colorado State University this fall, where she plans to study early childhood education. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Taylor shared, "I want to be remembered as a teammate who shows up every day with effort, integrity, and ready to support all. The culture of my program and the balance of athletics and academics is so special, and I want to be remembered for how I truly represented Chaparral as a whole." Emerson Sprinkle. Emerson exemplifies the true spirit of a student athlete, shared her coach, Greg Gilmore, describing her as an exceptionally talented, furiously competitive, and deeply committed to her team's success. Mr. Johnson echoed that sentiment, noting Emerson's discipline, teamwork, and character, and how she consistently inspires both teammates and classmates through her sportsmanship and perseverance. Emerson will continue her soccer career at Boise State University, where she plans to compete at the collegiate level while exploring her academic interests. Reflecting on the legacy she hopes to leave, Emerson shared, "I want to be remembered as a selfless leader, someone who always put the team and others before themselves. I want to lead in a Christ-like way with compassion, humility, and love, and also being determined and gritty on and off the court. But most of all, I want to be remembered for making a positive impact on others and encouraging them to believe in themselves." Corinne Hayes. Quiet leadership and consistency define Corinne. Her impact on the Chaparral swim and dive. A 2-year captain, Corinne has been a steady presence in and out of the water, encouraging her teammates and helping drive the team's success at practices and meets. Her coach, Dominic Solik, shared that Corinne has been an invaluable leader whose example has played a major role in the continued success of the program. Mr. Johnson added, "Corinne demonstrates excellence in both academics and athletics, praising her discipline, perseverance, and quiet confidence that inspire those around her. Corinne will continue her swimming and diving at the Division I level at St. Bonaventure University while studying biology. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Corinne shared, "I would like to be remembered for being a hard worker, swimming fast, and being a good captain and a teammate." Maddie Jenkins. Competitive drive and accountability have defined Maddie's basketball career while at Shap. As a team captain and leading scorer, Maddie consistently set the tone through effort, resilience, and positivity. Her coach, Corey White, shared that Maddie motivates her teammates every day, balancing strong performances on the court with discipline and focus in the classroom. Chaparral AD, Mr. Johnson, described Maddie as a fierce competitor whose leadership, work ethic, and respect for others set a high standard for herself and those around her. Maddie is committed to play basketball at Park University in Gilbert, Arizona, where she plans to study political science. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Maddie shared, "I want to be remembered for always being one of the hardest workers in basketball and in the classroom, and as a leader who led by example to push my teammate and myself to be our best at every practice and game." Jenna Baller, my girl. I have known Jenna since she was 5 years old. She was the younger sister. The last class that I coached at Chaparral, she was just the youngest sister of one of the players there. So I'm very honored to read about Jenna today. Jenna's leadership at Chaparral has been felt far beyond the volleyball court. As a standout athlete and student body president, she has represented the Wolverine community with pride, integrity, and heart. Mr. Johnson recognized Jenna for her focus, determination, and leadership, noting how her character and work ethic reflect the very best of Chaparral. Her coach, Amanda West, described Jenna as someone who leads with both strength and heart, bringing a steady, calming presence while competing with a grit and treating everyone with kindness and respect. Jenna is committed to play volleyball at the University of Northern Colorado and has been accepted to the School of Dietetics. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Jenna shared, "I would love to be remembered for the love and pride I have in being a Chaparral Wolverine. I'm proud of the friendships and memories that were made along the way and what our team accomplished when we played with integrity and for each other." Let's give a round of applause for the Chaparral High School winners.
Let's go! Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, yo. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name. He doesn't need his name up in lights, he just wants to be heard, whether it's the beat of the mic. He feels so unlike everybody else, alone, in spite of the fact that some people still think that they know. But no, he knows the code. It's not about the salary, it's all about reality and making some noise, making a story, making sure his click stays up. That means when he puts it down, Tuck's picking it up. Let's go.
Who the hell is he anyway? He never really talks much, never concerned with status, but still leaving him starstruck. Humble through opportunities given despite the fact that many misjudge him because he makes a living from writing raps. Put it together himself, now the picture connects. Never asking for someone's help or to get some respect. He's only focused on what he wrote. His will is beyond reach, and now it all unfolds. The skill of an artist. This is 20% skill, 80% fear, be 100% clear, cause Ryu was ill. Who would've thought he'd be the one that set the West in flames? And I heard him wreck it with the crystal method, name of the game. Came back, dropped Megadeth, took him to church. I like Bleach, man. Ryu had the stupidest verse, this dude is the truth. Now everybody giving them guest spots and stocks through the roof. I heard him with that
This
stock.
is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
They call him Ryu, he's sick and he's spitting fire and Mike got him out the dryer, he's hot. Found him in Fort Minor with top, but a f***ing nihilist porcupine. He's the type women wanna be with, and rappers hope he gets 8 years in the making, patiently waiting to blow. Now the record with Shinoda's taking over the globe.
Let's give a warm welcome to our winners from Douglas County High School and Mesa Middle School.
He's not your everyday on the block. He knows how to work with what he's got, making his way to the top. He don't think it's a comedy. Keep asking him, was it given that birth that doesn't stand for an acronym? No, he's living proof. Let him rock in the booth. He'll get you buzzing quicker than a shot of vodka with juice. Him and his crew are known around as one of the best. Dedicated to what they do and give 100%.
Forget Mike, nobody really knows how or why he works so hard. It seems like he's never got time because he writes every note and he writes every
All right,
line.
before we get to the brilliance of our Douglas County feeder area winners, I'd like to ask our Highlands Ranch High School and Crest Hill Middle School winners to quietly start making their way to the on-deck area. Thanks. And it's time. Let's start by celebrating our winners from Mesa Middle School. Annabelle Nosland. Annabelle made a strong impact on the Mesa Middle School track program as a leader in the long jump and triple jump, qualifying twice for the district track meet. Athletic Director Corey Fry shared that Annabelle's consistency and leadership helped define her as an exemplary student athlete within the school community. Jumps coach Garrett West added that Annabelle quickly made her mark by qualifying for districts and placing among the top competitors, noting that her work ethic set the tone for the entire Jumps group. He also praised her willingness to help teammates improve, driven by a genuine desire to see everyone around her succeed. Reflecting on her experience, Annabelle shared the most important thing I learned from participating in middle school sports was that trying and failing is so much better than not attempting at all. And this will help me in high school to build new connections, skills, and gain more experience. Ellie Ortiz. Ellie is a versatile student athlete who proudly represented Mesa Middle School in both track and basketball, consistently bringing energy and competitiveness to every team she joined. Basketball coach Megan shared that Ellie is known for her positive attitude, strong work ethic, and selfless teamwork, noting that she consistently put her teammates first and embodies the spirit of sportsmanship. Mr. Fry recognized Ellie for her commitment to multiple sports and her dedication to Mesa's athletic programs. Reflecting on her experience, Ellie shared, I learned that perseverance is key when it comes to achieving things, because in life, things will not always be easy, and you need perseverance to reach your goals. Emma Stubbs. Emma is a dedicated multi-sport student athlete who represented Mesa Middle School in both volleyball and track, consistently balancing effort, teamwork, and commitment. Mr. Fry highlighted Emma's strong work ethic and team-first mentality, noting her reliability and positive presence within the Mesa community. Track coach Diane shared that Emma consistently pushes herself to improve and leads through example, always willing to encourage teammates, offer advice, or step in wherever she's needed. Her coach added that Emma's positive attitude, teamwork, and drive make her an exceptional member of the program. Reflecting on her growth, Emma shared, I learned to treat practice like competition and competition like practice, so I can stay focused, less stressed, and proud of how hard I tried. Kenley Sisson. All right, moving on. Vanessa Thomas. Vanessa is an inspiration not just for her athletic talent, but for her leadership and character, shared flag football coach Victor, noting her impact as a confident, steady presence who helped unite and lead an all-girls team with heart. Mesa AD Mr. Fry added that Vanessa's versatility across volleyball and flag football reflects her willingness to compete, learn, and contribute wherever needed. Her passion for multiple sports and commitment to her teammates make her a strong representative of Mesa Middle School athletics. Reflecting on her experience, Vanessa shared, in flag football, I learned to be a leader by being the girls' quarterback. And in volleyball, I learned that there are people on my team who are really good and can help me improve my skills. Let's give a huge round of applause to our Mesa Middle School winners. We are now happy to honor our 5 amazing Douglas County High School winners. Audrey Phillips. There's a warmth and steadiness Audrey brings to Douglas County's cross-country and track programs that's impossible to miss. Athletic Director Diane Shuck shared that Audrey is not only an incredible competitor, but equally as kind as the day is long, adding that her constant smile, even during long-distance runs, makes this program brighter. Head coaches Jake Swartz and Lori Rice describe Audrey as an integral part of both programs for 4 years, serving as a cross-country captain and ranking top 10 all-time in school history in the 800 meters and the 4x800 meter relay. Off the track, Audrey balances a rigorous academic load while maintaining a 4.2 GPA and will attend Northern Arizona University in the Honors College, planning to major in secondary education or criminal justice. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Audrey shared, I hope to be remembered as someone who made track a supportive and welcoming space. More than times or medals, I hope I'm remembered for the positivity, unity, and encouragement I brought to the team. Maria Dekalenko. Thank you. Sorry about that. Hard work and heart have defined Maria's journey with Douglas County flag football. Mrs. Shuck described Maria as the ultimate teammate, praising her positivity, leadership, and willingness to guide younger athletes with wisdom and understanding. Her coach, Nate, shared that Maria lives to outwork her competition, noting her commitment to 0-hour weights, club flag football, and balancing what feels like a full-time job outside of school. Maria plans to attend college, continue playing flag football, and pursue studies in architecture and design. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Maria shared, "I want to be remembered for the hard work and dedication I put into my team, and for the commitment, effort, and passion I have had, and continue to have for flag football." Kendall Paul. Service and leadership define Kendall's impact at Douglas County High School. Her coach, Lauren, shared how proud the program is to have Kendall, describing her as a focused, quiet leader whose strength shows through her actions and kindness both on and off the mat. Mrs. Shuck added that Kendall's leadership extends beyond athletics through her role as an ambassador for Children's Hospital Colorado, where she uses her voice to uplift others and inspire young people to chase their dreams. Kendall will attend Arizona State University, major in biochemistry, and plans to try out for the cheer team. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Kendall shared, "I want to be remembered as a positive and encouraging teammate, someone other athletes can talk to and trust." Jillian Cabral. Okay, moving on. Jaleesa Ramirez. Known to her teammates as Juju, Jaleesa Ramirez leads with confidence, care, and consistency beyond the plate. Her coach, Kurt Williams, described Juju as an exceptional leader and talented softball player, highlighting the ways she mentors younger athletes and inspires confidence through her words and actions. Mrs. Shuck added that Jaleesa excels both academically and athletically, balancing rigorous coursework with high-level competition while demonstrating strong game IQ, resilience, and poise under pressure. Jaleesa plans to play softball in college and major in criminal justice with the goal of becoming an FBI agent. And reflecting on her journey, she shared her desire to continue growing through the game she loves while leading others with character and purpose. Let's give these young ladies a nice round of a hand.
Millions every year, the South champion. Cause all I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get it up. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there. Swerving in my low, head on the swivel, you know serving me's a no-no. Clean as a whistle as I pull out in my Rolls Royce. Yellow bone passenger, they see it, they say, oh boy. Tell Cali, back it up, my call me loco. Down for armed traffic, and don't make me pull up. Ask you what you laughing at, represent that mud life. Dirty money, better get your mud right. We come together holding hands and holler hood life. We all strapping all black, it's like life. You riding or what? Cause we riding tonight. Now you riding with me cause you wasn't riding. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get it up. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there.
Heat in the kitchen, pot on the stove, water getting boiled. Being sold, Snoopy in the hookie, system overload. I've been running this rap game since I was 20 years old. I hung with the worst of them, bust till I burst them up, floss them up, toss them up, hard away, close them up. Pardon me, I'm bossing up, pressure up, pressure, bro, don't mess with us. We like the U in the 80s, back to back, set it.
Please welcome to the stage our winners from Highlands Ranch High School and Crest Hill Middle School.
Time and time again, while I'm sipping on this gin, Al Davis said it best, just win, baby, win.
All I do is win, win or what? Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Up, down, up, down. 'Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in
Last
the
but
air.
certainly not least, our final group. So excited. Let's start with celebrating our winners from Crest Hill Middle School, starting with Evie Goplin. Leadership shows up in how you treat people, and Evie does that every day at Crest Hill. Athletic Director Joe Wall shared that Evie truly embodies what a Crest Hill student athlete is all about, noting her many leadership roles, her willingness to help peers on and off the court, and the high expectations she holds for herself and her teammates. Coach Heather Whittakis added that Evie leads by example in everything she does, calling her the team's biggest encourager on the volleyball court and a student who represents Crest Hill with grace in front of parents, staff, and other schools. Reflecting on what sports have taught her, Evie shared, "I have learned the importance of teamwork. Teamwork is super important to be coordinated and have a well-working team. In life, you can't work well with a team, then you won't get very far. Lots of the girls on my team always lean on each other, and that connection and trust is really important." Gianna White. Gianna might be soft-spoken, but her impact is felt everywhere she goes. Mr. Wall described Gianna as someone who leads quietly but powerfully, sharing that since 7th grade, she has grown into a steady leader whose calm energy and work ethic sets the tone on the court and around school. Coach Mark Wayfield echoed that same sentiment, saying Gianna speaks volumes without using words and is someone students and teammates naturally look up to for her positive presence. Reflecting on her middle school experience, Gianna shared, "Middle school is a place to thrive through beliefs and actions, and sports helped me discover my athletic ability. High school sports brings new opportunities, and having a solid foundation from middle school will help make me stronger and ready for new beginnings." Micah McGinnis. No? We love you, we miss you. Sophia Nikoloff. All right. Consistency and effort defines Sophia. Mr. Wall shared that Sophia's work ethic and leadership lift the entire Crest Hill community, highlighting her ability to lead by example in cross country, basketball, and track, while supporting teammates and showing respect on and off the field. Her coach added that Sophia's top-level sportsmanship, intensity in practice, and focus on improvement makes others want to be on her team and trust her leadership. Reflecting on her journey, Sophia shared, "Middle school sports have taught me about the importance of teamwork through all things, even beyond sports. Working on a team leads me to more growth and is ultimately more fun. They also taught me that with enough training, I can do anything I put my mind to." Sophia Hohenschel. Did I say your last name right? Okay. Sophia's presence elevates every space she enters. Mr. Wall shared that her talent, leadership, and willingness to help others make her a powerful example of what it means to be a Crest Hill student athlete, both on the court and across campus. Coach Sean Hayes added that Sophia made a profound impact on the basketball program by pushing teammates in practice, lifting confidence during close games, and being just as dependable in the classroom and in school leadership. Reflecting on what middle school sports have taught her, Sophia shared, "I believe that participating in middle school sports taught me invaluable lessons about leadership, friendship, empathy, strategy, and self-belief, lessons that will shape my high school journey and my life beyond school." Let's give a huge round of applause for our Crest Hill Middle School winners. All right, and now let's highlight our amazing Highlands Ranch High School winners, starting with Tatum McColshius. Did I say it right? She's not here? I love you, Tatum. I hope I said your last name right. Okay, Sydney Davis. All right. Sydney Davis leads without ever needing the spotlight. Mr. Everett described Sid as a soft-spoken, dependable, and always ready to do whatever is asked, calling her an exceptional teammate who truly embodies what it means to be a Falcon. Her coach added that Sydney is the kind of athlete every coach hopes for. Tireless, reliable, and selfless. While Karen Jiraki shared that her balance of talent, grit, and kindness make her a humble example for young student athletes. Sydney plans to attend university to study flight science and pursue a career as a pilot. That's amazing. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Sydney shared, hold. I want to be remembered as someone who worked hard every day, supported and encouraged others, put the team first, and represented my school with pride, heart, and commitment. Isabella Holly. There's a toughness Isabella Holly brings to every sport she plays and a kindness that makes it even more powerful. Mr. Everett joked that Bella has a collision quota in every sport, sharing that even through bruised and bloody, she always finishes the job, all while bringing grit, teamwork, and determination to everything she does. Her coach, Mike Hicks, added that Bella is as tough and intelligent on the field as she is in the classroom, praising her passion for success and her ability to approach both athletics and academics with the right mindset. Bella plans to pursue nursing and is currently deciding between Florida State, Boise State, and the University of Florida. Reflecting on what she hopes to be remembered for, Bella shared, I want to be remembered as a strong, determined woman who led with confidence and never gave up. I hope my impact is seen in the people I helped grow, not just the goals I achieved. Madeline Sadler. Positive energy follows Madeline Sadler everywhere she goes. Mr. Everett shared that as a cheer captain, Madeline brings enthusiasm and confidence to everything she does, noting her growth as a leader across multiple clubs and activities, and even crediting her with naming an alter ego that now lives in infamy in Highlands Ranch. It's kind of mysterious, but I like it. In her role within Student Senate, Madeline has made a lasting impact on school culture. Everett added that as a social media chair, she helped strengthen communication and connection across the ranch community. Madeline plans to study nursing at the University of Missouri. Reflecting on how she hopes to be remembered, she shared, I want to be remembered as someone who was there for my teammates when they needed it, who stayed positive even when it would have been easier not to, and who showed that showing up and putting in effort really matters. And Natalie Newton is not here? All right, we love you, Natalie. So on that note, let's give our Highlands Ranch High School winners a huge round of applause. And as we conclude this year's event, I just want to remind each of our winners that today it's not just about sports. It's about your leadership, it's about your resilience, and it's about knowing that you are changing the game for the next generation, which is an amazing responsibility, and we're so proud that you are the ones leading the way. Your passion, dedication, and leadership, you inspire progress and new opportunity for generations to come. And thank you to everybody who played such a big part in today's amazing celebration and for the reminder of the purposeful work going on here at Douglas County School District, where our young women are truly turning barriers into breakthroughs and passion into progress. Thank you all for being part of the special day. Congratulations to all of you young women, and have a wonderful day.